Luke Carson lived a quiet life in a small town called Green Ridge. He worked as a mechanic at a local garage, fixing cars and trucks for people he had known most of his life. His house was modest, painted white with a red roof, and sat near the edge of town where the woods began. Every morning he would wake up to the smell of coffee brewing and Emily already dressed, humming softly as she made breakfast. Emily Carson was kind, smart, and always seemed to know what Luke needed before he asked. They had been married for 7 years and had built a life full of small joys. 2 dogs named Max and Bella, weekend hikes through the forest, and nights spent watching old movies on the couch. Their life wasn't exciting, but it was good. One evening, while sitting on the porch under a sky filled with stars, Luke told a joke about aliens. He liked telling silly stories, especially ones that made Emily laugh. This one was about a man who thought his neighbor was acting strange, only to find out he was actually from another planet. Imagine, Luke said, grinning, if someone you loved turned out to be an alien queen. Emily smiled, then laughed, but just for a second her face went still. It was almost like she had forgotten where she was. The moment passed quickly, and she shook her head, saying, "You really watch too many sci-fi shows." Luke shrugged and laughed it off. "Maybe I should write one. My wife, the Space Queen." They both laughed again, but something about the way Emily looked at him stayed with Luke. It wasn't fear or anger. It was something else, something unreadable. The next few days were normal. Luke fixed a pickup truck with engine trouble. Emily baked cookies, and they took the dogs for a long walk. But then came the odd things. First, there were the weather changes. Clouds rolled in without warning, bringing sudden wind and rain. Trees bent hard enough to snap branches, and yet the storm report said nothing unusual was happening in the area. Then, Luke found something strange in the garage. It was a small metal object shaped like a spiral, glowing faintly when he picked it up. He didn't remember ever seeing it before. He asked Emily if it was hers. She paused, then said, "Oh, that's probably just a trinket I found at a craft fair." It didn't look like any craft fair item Luke had ever seen, but he didn't press her. Later that week, he noticed something else. A patch of grass behind the house that never seemed to grow. No matter how much it rained or how often he mowed, the same spot remained short and dry. When he tried to dig a little, the soil felt different. Too smooth, almost like plastic. Again, he asked Emily. "Maybe it's just bad soil," she said, smiling, but not looking at him. Luke started paying more attention after that. He noticed how sometimes when Emily was reading or thinking, she stared at the sky longer than usual. Once, he saw her whispering to herself in a language he didn't recognize. It sounded soft, flowing, and beautiful. He tried to forget about it all. He told himself it was nothing. But deep down, a tiny voice told him otherwise. And though he kept smiling, going to work, walking the dogs, and drinking coffee in the mornings, Luke could feel it. Something was off. His life had always been simple. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't as normal as he thought. Luke couldn't stop thinking about the strange object he had found in the garage. It sat on his workbench at home, catching the light when he walked by. He turned it over in his hands, trying to figure out what it was made of. It wasn't metal like he first thought. It felt lighter, almost like glass, but stronger. One night, while Emily was in the shower, Luke decided to look through the garage more carefully. He checked the shelves, the drawers, and even the old toolboxes. Most of it was normal stuff: wrenches, oil cans, paint cans with dried-up lids. But behind a stack of wooden crates, he saw a small box tucked away in the corner. It looked plain from the outside, but there was a lock on it that didn't use a key. Instead, it had a smooth panel with no buttons or holes. Curious, Luke tapped it lightly. Nothing happened. He tried pressing his palm against it, and after a second, the lock clicked open. Inside were things he didn't expect. The first thing he pulled out was a badge. It was round and silver, covered in symbols he didn't recognize. They weren't letters, not like anything he had ever seen before. They looked like soft lines and curves, almost like waves moving across the surface. Next were some photos. But these weren't of people or places he knew. One showed a city that stretched high into the sky, with towers that looked like they were made of crystal. Another showed a forest where the trees glowed in the dark. There was even a picture of someone who looked like Emily, but dressed in strange clothes, standing beside beings that didn't look human at all. Luke's heart started to beat faster. He looked up just as the garage door opened. Emily walked in. She stopped when she saw him holding the box. Her face changed. For just a moment, her eyes went wide and her lips parted slightly, like she had been caught doing something she shouldn't. Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "What are you doing?" she asked, walking closer. "I found this," Luke said, holding up the box. "It was hidden back here." Emily took it gently from him, closing the lid before placing it under her arm. "It's part of an art project I've been working on," she said, voice calm. "Nothing to worry about." "Those pictures," Luke said slowly. "They don't look like any place on Earth." Emily gave a small laugh. "You know me. I like to imagine things." But Luke didn't feel like laughing. He watched her walk. Back toward the house, the box held close to her body. She moved like it was important, like it wasn't just some silly art project. That night, Luke lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Emily slept beside him, breathing softly. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to think it was just a weird coincidence, that maybe she really had gotten into drawing sci-fi scenes or making fake photos. But deep down, he knew better. The next day, he went online. He searched for the symbols on the badge, typing in every possible word he could think of. Strange symbols, alien writing, unusual markings. Nothing came up at first. But then, late at night, he found a forum post from someone claiming to have seen the same symbol near Mars. The post was years old, buried under hundreds of other comments. The user wrote, "I used to work in satellite imaging. Saw this mark once in a photo taken near Mars orbit. Never got an explanation. It's real, and it's not ours." Luke stared at the screen. His hands shook a little as he closed the browser. Something was going on, and he was starting to realize Emily wasn't telling him everything. Luke couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. The strange symbols, the glowing badge, the photos of places that didn't exist on Earth. He kept going over it all in his head while working at the garage, fixing cars with hands that felt heavier than usual. He tried asking Emily again the next morning while they were making coffee. "Why do you have that box?" he asked, trying to sound calm. Emily paused, then smiled like she always did. "I told you, it's for my art." "You don't draw or paint," Luke said. "You never have." Emily looked down at her cup. "Maybe I'm starting something new." Luke didn't believe her, not anymore. That night after Emily went to bed, he stayed up searching online again. He typed in more phrases, strange symbols, Mars sightings, unidentified objects. He found nothing useful until he remembered the forum post from the satellite. Worker. He searched for that user again. This time, he found a reply buried deep in the comments. "I worked on classified projects before retiring. Saw data that was never made public. There are things out there we're not supposed to know about. Some of them came here. One might still be here." Luke read it 3 times. His heart beat faster. The next day, he printed the symbol from the badge and took it with him to work. During a break, he showed it to Danny, the older mechanic who had worked at the garage for decades. "Ever seen this?" Luke asked, holding up the paper. Danny squinted at it. "Looks like some fancy tattoo." "Really?" Luke asked. "Nope," Danny said, handing it back. "But if you want to know more, maybe try the library. Old books sometimes have weird stuff like that." So later that week, Luke stopped by the town library. It wasn't big, just a few shelves in a quiet room with dusty books. He asked the librarian, Mrs. Carter, if she knew anything about strange symbols. She gave him a curious look but pointed to a section labeled Myths and Legends. There, among books about ghosts and lost cities, he found one called Symbols Beyond Earth. He opened it slowly and flipped through pages filled with drawings of stars, ancient ruins, and the same symbol from the badge. His breath caught. The book described it as a royal mark from a distant world. used by rulers who once traveled between planets. It was said to belong to a queen who vanished long ago. Luke closed the book and sat there for a long time. He wanted to deny it, to tell himself it was just coincidence, but the pieces were coming together. When he got home, Emily was cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and tomatoes filled the house. Max and Bella barked happily when they saw him walk in. Luke set his keys down slowly. "We need to talk," he said. Emily turned off the stove and faced him. He pulled out the printed symbol and placed it on the table. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Emily stared at it. For the first time, she didn't smile. After a long silence, she sat down across from him. "Luke," she said softly, "I've been trying to protect you." "From what?" he wanted to ask. But he already had a guess. "I'm not from here," she said finally. "Not from this planet." Luke swallowed hard. "You're saying you're an alien?" Emily nodded. "Yes, but I love you. Everything I've done because I care." Luke leaned back in his chair. His whole life had changed in just a few days. And now everything he thought he knew was wrong. Luke sat at the kitchen table staring at Emily like he was trying to see through her. His hands were cold. His heart beat fast. The house felt smaller than before, like the walls had closed in. Emily looked back at him, calm but serious. She didn't seem afraid. Just tired. "You're saying you're not from Earth?" Luke said slowly. "No," she answered. "I came here a long time ago." Luke rubbed his face with both hands. "This sounds like something out of a movie." "I know," Emily said. "But it's real." She got up and walked toward the hallway that led to the basement. Luke followed. Without thinking, they went downstairs. The basement was dim, filled with boxes, old tools, and a washing machine that made noise when it spun too fast. But in the far corner stood a strange metal shelf, covered by a white sheet. Emily pulled the sheet off. Behind it was a wall that didn't look like the others. It was smooth, almost like polished stone, with a thin line running down the center. She pressed her hand against the side. There was a soft click, then a quiet hum. The wall split in two and slid open, revealing a hidden room. Luke took a step back. Inside, the air felt different. Colder, heavier. The walls glowed faintly with soft, blue lines. There were objects on shelves that pulsed with light, floating screens that changed shape and a tall mirror-like surface that showed no reflection. "This is where I kept the box," Emily said quietly. "It's part of who I used to be." Luke stepped inside slowly, looking at everything with wide eyes. "How long have you been hiding this?" he asked. "Since the day I came here," she said. "I chose this life because I wanted peace. I left my world behind after a war destroyed everything. I erased parts of my memory so I could live like a normal person." Luke turned to her. "You erased your own memories?" "Yes," she said, "so I wouldn't be found, so I could forget the pain." He shook his head. "This is too much." Emily reached for his hand. "I never meant to lie. I loved you from the moment I met you. I wanted to stay here forever." Luke didn't pull away. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't noticed before. Not just kindness or beauty, but something deeper. Something ancient. He let go of her hand and walked around the room. He touched a small device that lit up when he touched it. It made a soft sound, like music played from far away. "What happened to your people?" he asked. Emily looked down. "Most of them are gone. I was their queen once. I tried to save them, but I failed." Luke blinked. "You were a queen?" "Yes," she said. "Queen Alara of Vathar, that's my name." He swallowed hard. "And now you're just, living in Green Ridge?" She smiled a little. "I liked it here. It was quiet. Safe." Luke ran a hand through his hair. "So, what happens now?" Before she could answer, a low tone filled the room. It came from one of the floating screens. Symbols began to appear, glowing brighter. Emily stepped closer and touched the screen. More symbols appeared, moving fast. Someone found me, she whispered. Luke felt a chill run down his spine. Who? He asked. Emily turned to him, her face pale. My people. They think I'm still alive. Luke stared at her. And they want me back. The glowing screen pulsed with symbols, moving like water across its surface. Emily's hands hovered over it, her face tight with worry. Luke stood behind her, watching but not understanding anything except one thing. This was serious. Emily touched the screen again, and the symbols slowed. A soft hum filled the room, followed by a voice. Not loud but clear. It spoke in a language Luke didn't know, but somehow he understood parts of it. Queen Alara returned. Returned to the stars. Luke took a step back. What does that mean? He asked. Emily turned to him slowly. It means they found me. My people. Or what's left of them. She looked down at the message again. They think I can lead them again. Lead them? Luke repeated. Like, rule them? Yes, she said. I was their queen before I came here. Before I forgot most of who I was. Luke shook his head. You can't just leave. You're married to me. We live here. Emily stepped closer. I don't want to leave. I love you. But if I don't respond, they'll come looking for me. And they won't stop until they find me. Luke felt his stomach twist. So what do we do? Emily walked to a small metal box on the shelf and opened it. Inside was a silver ring shaped like a spiral. She slipped it onto her finger and the room darkened slightly, as if the air itself had changed. They sent emissaries, she said. Not soldiers, not yet. Emissaries? Messengers, she explained. They want me to go back, to help rebuild what was lost. Luke sat down on a wooden crate near the wall. And if you say no? Emily looked away. Then others will come. Ones who won't ask nicely. Outside, the sky seemed darker than usual. Clouds rolled in fast, even though the weather report had promised clear skies all week. Max and Bella barked from upstairs, uneasy. Luke rubbed his, temples. This feels like a dream. I know, Emily said gently. But it's real. Later that night, while Emily tried to send a reply through the screen, Luke paced the kitchen. The dogs were quiet now, lying by the door, but he could still feel something wrong in the air. Can't you just tell them you don't want to go back? He asked. It's not that simple, she said. My people are scattered, broken. They need leadership. And if I refuse, someone else might try to take control, someone worse. Luke frowned. So you're saying you're the best option? I was once, she admitted. Before I came here. He sat down at the table. And what about us? Emily walked over and held his hand. I don't want to leave you, but I might not have a choice. Just then there was a knock at the door. Luke and Emily exchanged looks. It was late. Too late for neighbors to drop by. Emily whispered, "Don't answer it." But Luke got up anyway. As he reached the door, another knock came, soft but firm. He looked, through the peephole. Standing outside was a man and a woman. Both wore plain clothes, but something about them felt off. Their eyes were too sharp, their faces too calm. Luke turned to Emily. "They're already here," he whispered. Emily closed, her eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Let them in," she said. Luke opened the door. The wind howled behind them, and the night began to change. Luke opened the door slowly, keeping one hand on the frame. The man and woman standing outside looked normal enough. Average clothes, calm faces, but something about them made his skin crawl. The woman stepped forward first. She had short brown hair and wore a dark jacket. "Emily Carson?" she asked, voice soft but firm. Emily stood behind Luke, her expression unreadable. "Yes," she said after a pause. The woman gave a small nod. "We need to talk." Luke glanced, back at Emily. She didn't look surprised, only tired. "About what?" he asked before she could answer. The man finally spoke. His voice was quiet, almost kind. "About who you really are," he said, looking at Emily. "And what's coming." Against his better judgment, Luke stepped aside. The two visitors entered without hesitation, brushing past like they had been here before. Emily led them into the living room, where the dogs watched silently from the corner. Luke sat beside Emily on the couch. The man and woman sat across from them, placing their hands on their laps. "My name is Claire Bennett," the woman said, "and this is Daniel Cruz. We work for a private agency that monitors unusual activity." "Unusual how?" Luke asked. Claire met his eyes. "Like your wife, for example." Luke swallowed hard. Emily leaned forward slightly. "You know what? I am." Daniel nodded. "Yes. And we also know others are coming. Your signal was picked up again. It won't be long before they find you." Emily's jaw tightened. "I sent a message saying I wouldn't return." "It wasn't enough," Claire said. "Something bigger is happening, and if you don't act soon, this planet might get caught in the middle." Luke looked between them. "Wait, are you saying aliens are going to invade Earth because of her?" Claire didn't answer right away. Daniel did. "Not yet. But if she doesn't take control, someone else will. And they won't care about humans." Luke ran a hand through his hair. "So what? She just leaves with you and goes back to space?" Claire shook her head. "No. She needs to decide what to do. But we can help protect you both if you let us." Emily stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Luke. "I told you I erased parts of my memory," she said softly. "But there are things I never told you. Things I was afraid to remember." Luke frowned. "Like what?" She took a deep breath. "Before I came here, I was part of a peace treaty between warring factions. If that treaty breaks, war will spread beyond my world. It could reach here." Luke stared at her. "This is real, isn't it?" Emily nodded. "Yes." Claire leaned forward. "We've seen traces of other groups already moving. Not just your people. Others too. They're watching," Daniel added. "Some want to use you, Emily. Some want to stop you, and some want to erase you completely." Luke felt cold. "What do you want from us?" he asked. Claire looked at Emily. "We want her to stay safe, and we want to make sure this doesn't turn into something worse." Emily looked down at her hands. "I wanted to live a normal life." "I know," Claire said gently. "But sometimes the past doesn't let go." After a long silence, Emily finally spoke again. "Can you keep him safe?" Claire nodded. "If he helps us." Luke looked at her sharply. "Help you how?" Claire smiled slightly. "By learning the truth, and by staying close." Outside, thunder rolled low across the sky. The night was getting darker, and Luke knew nothing would ever be normal again. Luke didn't sleep that night. After Claire and Daniel left, he sat on the couch with Emily beside him. Max and Bella lay curled up near their feet, unaware of how much had changed. Luke stared at the ceiling, then at the floor, then finally at Emily. "You knew all this time," he said quietly. Emily looked at him, her eyes tired. "I knew pieces of it, but I made myself forget most of it." "Why?" he asked. "Because I wanted peace," she said. "I wanted to live without fear, without war." Luke shook his head. "So you just erased your own memories?" "Not all of them," she admitted. "Just enough to blend in, to feel human." Luke stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the town was quiet. No sign of anything strange. No lights in the sky, no strange visitors. Just the soft wind moving through the trees. But inside, everything felt different. The next morning, Claire came alone. She arrived in a plain car and knocked on the door before walking in like she already belonged there. "We need to talk," she said. Luke crossed his arms. "About what?" Claire looked at Emily. "About what's coming." They sat at the kitchen table, cups of coffee steaming between them. Claire pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "This is what we know," she said, opening it. Inside were old documents, photos, and pages covered in notes. Luke flipped through them slowly. One photo showed a strange object found in the desert decades ago. Another was a report labeled Unidentified Craft, Mars Orbit. There were names he didn't recognize and one name he did, Queen Ilara. His eyes stopped on that page. "This says you led a peace mission," he said, reading aloud. Emily nodded. "I tried to stop a war between two factions, but something went wrong. My people were attacked, I escaped, but not many others did." Claire pointed to a line in the report. "Your government knew about you for a long time. They kept it secret." Luke frowned. "Why would they do that?" "Because they were afraid," Claire said. "Afraid of what might happen if they interfered." Luke closed the folder. "And now what? You want me to help keep her safe?" Claire gave a small smile. "You already are helping, by being here, by knowing the truth." Luke ran a hand over his face. "This is too much." Emily reached for his hand. "I know, but I'm still me. I'm still your wife." Luke looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the same woman who made him coffee every morning, who laughed at his dumb jokes, who took care of the dogs when they got sick. But now he also saw someone else, someone from another world, someone who used to rule an empire. "Okay," he said finally, "tell me everything." Over the next few days, Claire brought more files. Luke read reports about alien tech, secret meetings, and hidden bases around the world. He learned about the symbols Emily carried, the meaning behind the badge, and the power she once had. And slowly, he began to understand. Emily wasn't just hiding from her past. Her past was hunting her, and soon, it would find her. The sky changed first. What had been clear and blue turned dark without warning. Clouds rolled, in fast, thick like smoke swallowing the sun whole. Birds stopped singing. The wind went still. Luke stood outside with Max and Bella beside him, looking up. Something was coming. Emily came out of the house, her face tight with worry. "They're here," she said softly. Claire's car pulled up fast, tires kicking up, dust. She stepped out quickly, followed by Daniel. Both looked serious. "We got a signal," Claire said. "Not from your people this time." Emily frowned. "Then who?" Daniel handed her a small device that pulsed with red light. "A rival faction. They know you're alive." Luke felt his stomach drop. "So what does that mean?" It was Emily who answered. "It means someone wants to take control, and they won't ask nicely." Within minutes, strange lights appeared in the sky. Not stars or planes, but ships. Silent, sleek, and moving with purpose. They hovered above the town, unseen by most, but felt by those who knew where to look. Claire turned to Luke. "We need to move. Now." They all rushed inside. Emily led them down to the hidden room beneath the basement. The glowing walls flickered as if reacting to the danger above. Emily touched the screen again. Symbols flew across it faster than before. "They're sending a message," she whispered. Claire leaned closer. "What does it say?" Emily's voice was low. "They demand I return. If I refuse, they will take Earth by force." Luke stared at her. "They can't do that." Emily met his eyes. "They can, and they will." Daniel pulled out a radio and spoke into it. "We've got movement near the coast. 2 more ships just dropped from orbit." Claire cursed under her breath. "This isn't just a warning, it's the start of something bigger." Emily closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again with new strength. "I won't let them hurt this place," she said. "I won't let them hurt my home." Luke stepped forward. "What can we do?" Emily looked at him, almost like she wanted to tell him to stay back. But instead, she nodded. "You can help me fight." Outside, the world began to change. People in Green Ridge started noticing things. Planes that didn't belong, strange lights in the forest, dogs barking at nothing. The government issued warnings about weather disturbances, but everyone knew something else was happening. In Washington, military forces scrambled. Satellites picked up unregistered crafts. Reports flooded in from around the world, ships appearing in the skies over major cities. The invasion had begun, but so had the resistance. Back in the hidden room, Emily placed the silver ring on her finger again. It glowed brighter than before, responding to her touch. "This ring holds part of my power," she said. "If I use it, I might be able to stop them." Luke swallowed hard. "Might?" She smiled slightly. "I've been human for a long time. I don't know how much of my old self is left." Claire stepped forward. "You won't have to fight alone." Daniel nodded. "We've seen enough to know this isn't just your war anymore." Luke took a deep breath. "Then let's do this." Above them, the sky cracked with light, and the battle for Earth had begun. The sky burned with light as ships hovered above Green Ridge. They didn't fire yet, but their presence alone sent fear through the town. People looked up, phones snapped photos, and some ran inside, not knowing what else to do. Luke stood beside Emily outside their house, the wind blowing hard around them. Max and Bella stayed close, ears low, sensing the danger. Claire and Daniel were already moving, speaking into radios, coordinating with others hidden across the country. "They're waiting for something," Claire said. Emily looked up at the ships. "They're waiting for me." Daniel handed her a small device. "This will help you reach them. If you talk, maybe you can delay them long enough for us to prepare." Emily took the device. She pressed a button, and a voice came through, cold and sharp. "Queen Alara. Return now, or face destruction." She lifted her chin and spoke clearly. "I am not your queen. I am Emily Carson, and this is my home." There was silence for a moment, then a reply. "You cannot hide who you are. The throne is empty. The empire needs its ruler." Emily turned to Luke. "They won't stop unless we make them." Luke nodded. "Then let's show them what this planet is made of." Back in the hidden room beneath the house, Emily pulled out old tech from her world. Glowing gloves slid onto her hands like second skin. A belt wrapped around her waist, humming with power. She looked different now. Not just Emily, but someone more. Luke watched her, unsure of what to say. She smiled at him. "Don't worry, I'm still me." He forced a grin. "Just promise me you'll come back." She touched his cheek. "Always." Above, ground. The team moved fast. Claire coordinated with local agents while Daniel helped set up defenses. They used stolen alien tech to create shields around the town, hoping to protect as many people as possible. But the enemy wasn't just in the sky. From the forest, dark figures emerged. Tall, armored beings with weapons that pulsed with red energy. They moved silently, scanning the area. Luke saw them first. "They're coming!" he shouted. The battle began with a flash of light. One of the aliens fired a beam that tore through a tree, sending splinters flying. Claire ducked behind a car and returned fire with a weapon that crackled with strange energy. Emily stepped forward, raising her hand. The silver ring on her finger glowed bright, and suddenly, a wave of force pushed the attackers back. Luke grabbed a tool from the garage, a metal rod, and swung it at one of the fallen soldiers. It wasn't much, but he wasn't going down without a fight. The fight spread through the town. Small groups of humans fought alongside Emily, using whatever they had. Farmers, shop owners, even teenagers joined in, helping move people to safety and setting traps where they could. In the middle of the chaos, Emily faced the leader of the invaders. He was taller than the others, wearing armor covered in symbols of war. "You have no right to challenge me," he said. Emily stepped forward. "I have every right. This world is under my protection." The alien raised his weapon. "Then you will fall with it." They clashed in a storm of light and sound. Luke watched, heart pounding, as Emily fought like a warrior reborn. And though he was just a man with no powers, he knew one thing. He would stand by her side until the end. The battle ended with the sky, still dark, but the silence told everyone it was over. Emily stood in the middle of what was left of Green Ridge. Buildings were damaged, trees burned, but most people had survived. The invaders were gone. Some defeated, others fled back to their ships. Luke walked toward her through the smoke and dust. He was bruised, tired, but still standing. So was she. Emily looked different now, not just because of the glowing ring on her finger or the armor she wore, but because something inside her had changed. She had remembered who she was, not just as a queen, but as a protector. Claire came up beside them, holding a broken radio. "They're pulling back," she said. "For now." Emily nodded. "They know they lost this fight." Luke looked at her carefully. "But will they come back?" "Maybe," she said softly. "But not today." In the days that followed, the world tried to make sense of what had happened. Reports spread across the globe about strange lights in the sky, battles fought in small towns, and a woman who stood against an alien army. Some called her a hero. Others thought it was fake news. But in Green Ridge, people knew the truth. Emily Carson wasn't just a quiet woman who baked cookies and walked her dogs. She was Queen Alara of Vathar, and she had saved Earth. After everything settled, Emily sat with Luke on their porch one evening. The stars were out again, shining like they always had. Luke broke the silence first. "What happens now?" he asked. Emily looked at him, then at the sky. "I have to go back." Luke's chest tightened. "To your people?" She nodded. "They need someone to lead, someone who remembers peace, not just war." He swallowed hard. "And you think that's you?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I can try." Luke looked down at his hands. He wanted to ask her to stay, to forget about queens and thrones and space wars. But he also knew that wasn't fair. She had saved this place. Maybe it was time for her to save hers. A few days later, a small ship landed in the woods behind their house. It was sleek, silent, and unlike anything built on Earth. Claire and Daniel helped prepare for the departure, making sure the path was clear. As the time came, Luke stood near the ship with Max and Bella beside him. Emily stepped forward, looking at him one last time. "I'll come back," she said. Luke gave a small smile. "You better." She reached for his hand and held it tight. "Thank you for loving me even when I didn't remember who I was." He squeezed her hand. "You were always Emily to me." She leaned in and kissed him gently. Then, without another word, she turned and walked up the ramp. The door closed behind her. The ship rose slowly, lifting off the ground without sound. It hovered for a moment, then shot into the sky like a flash of light. Gone. Luke stayed outside long after it disappeared. He looked up at the stars, wondering which one she was going. 2 weeks passed. Life in Green Ridge slowly returned to normal. People repaired homes, reopened shops, and stopped checking the sky every night. But Luke kept watching. Until one day, while sitting at the kitchen table, his phone buzzed. Just 3 words appeared on the screen. "I'm coming home." Luke smiled and waited.